Hey, Squirrel Squad. Y'all must not be up to chapter 11 in Little Men yet, because I just happened to be looking a while ago and saw that the second part, the second half of chapter 11 only recorded like 13 seconds of me going, my hair stuffed up here, and I'm about to freeze. Wearing my scarf like a shawl. And yes, I have Mary's shawl, but it's over there. And I don't want to get my tired old butt up out of the chair. I'm waiting on this to fire up. It says fire, but it ain't firing. And I probably had the rest of, sometimes it'll do that. It'll just record a few seconds of something, and I'll go back and I'll have the whole video. But guess who deleted a bunch of videos? Because I thought I already had them. Well, so I have to go back, and it's going to take me a minute because it took this a while to fire up. Got to find her book, and then I have to find my spot. Okay, Little Man. I went back and looked at the first part of 11 to see where at the end of it, to see where I left off, but gonna have to do some scrolling back. And it cut off on me today. So let me mark where I was. Well, I already got the bookmark, but come on. Come on. Okay, let's make a note right here. It says start here. I'm sorry, y'all. Ding dong, come on. Do what I want you to do. Okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I want to keep this highlighted. Note, note, note. Oh, come on, come on. So sorry, y'all. Okay, got it. Got it, finally. Finally. How are y'all doing? It's like almost 11 o'clock on Monday night. And yeah, I've been sitting in my chair trying to stitch and falling asleep. Let's see, we are on right now the second or third, I guess, be on the third chapter of, the third part of chapter 12, Huckleberries. But, golly, if I wouldn't have gotten rid of my extra readings today, but my memory was getting eaten up, so get off. Okay, wait a minute. This is 11. This is 11 here. Okay, it was about the, I'm hoping it won't be much longer. It was about when they were making the little museum doohickey. It certainly was a pleasant place. Dun, 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 dun. Be examined by Dan at his leisure. Yeah, here we are. Yay! See how much more I have to read of it. Not much at all, but more than 13 seconds. I didn't even get anything done but hearken. Okay, so the last thing I had said on that chapter is one cocoon to lay upon the shrine of science. Isn't it beautiful? I had no idea we had so many curious things. Get off. I gave that, don't it look well? We might, isn't it beautiful? I know. I gave that, don't it look well? We might make a lot by charging something for letting folks see it. Jack added that last suggestion to the general chatter that went on as the family viewed the room. This is a free museum, and if there's any speculating on it, I'll paint out the name over the door, said Mr. Lorry, turning so quickly that Jack wished he had held his tongue. Hear, hear, cried Mr. Bear. Speech, speech, added Mrs. Joe. Can't, I'm too bashful. You give them a lecture yourself, you're used to it, Mr. Lorry answered, retreating towards the window, meaning to escape, but she held him fast and said, laughing, as she looked at the dozen pairs of dirty hands about her, if I did lecture, hair in my eye, if I did lecture, it would be on the chemical and cleansing properties of soap. Come now, as the founder of the institution, you really ought to give us a few moral remarks, and we will applaud tremendously. Seeing that there was no way of escaping, Mr. Lorry looked up at Polly, hanging overhead, seemed to find inspiration in the brilliant old bird. Remember they stuffed Polly? Let's see. Sitting down upon the table, said in his pleasant way, well, there's one thing I'd like to suggest, boys, and that is I want you to get some good as well as much pleasure out of this. Just putting curious or pretty things here won't do it. So suppose you read up about them so that when anybody asks questions, you can answer them and understand the matter. I used to like these things myself and should enjoy hearing about them now, for I've forgotten all I once knew. It wasn't much, was it, Joe? Here's Dan now, full of stories about birds and bugs and so on. Let him take care of the museum, and once a week, the rest of you take turns to read a composition or tell about some animal, mineral, or vegetable. We should all like that, and I think it would put considerable useful knowledge into our heads. What do you say, Professor? I like it much, and will give the lads all the help I can, but they will need books to read up these new subjects. And we have not many, I fear, began Mr. Bear, looking much pleased, planning many fine lectures on geology, which he liked. We should have a library for the special purpose. Is that a useful sort of book, Dan? Asked Mr. Lorry, pointing to the volume that lay open by the cabinet. Oh, yes. It tells all I want to know about insects. I had it here to see how to fix the butterflies right. I covered it so it is not hurt, and Dan caught it up, fearing the lender might think him careless. Give it here a minute, and pulling out his pencil, Mr. Lorry wrote Dan's name in it, saying, as he set the book up on the corner, on one of the corner shelves, where nothing stood but a stuffed bird without a tail. There, that's the beginning of the museum library. I'll hunt up some more books, and Demi shall keep them in order. Where are those jolly little books we used to read, Joe? Insect Architecture, or some such name? All about ants having battles and bees having queens and crickets eating holes in our clothes. And I didn't know crickets did that. I thought moths did. I know moths do. And stealing milk and larks of that sort. In the garret at home, I'll have them sent out, and we will plunge into natural history with a will, said Mrs. Joe, ready for anything. Won't it be hard to write about such things? Asked Nat, who hated compositions. At first, perhaps, but you will soon like it. If you think that hard, how would you like to have this subject given to you as it was to a girl of 13? A conversation between, here's some guys that I'll slay their names. Themistocles, Aristides, and I'm sure I'm messing them up. Pericles? I'm sure I should know them. Kind of like Socrates or something, but I guess these were scientific dudes. On the proposed appropriation of funds of the Confederacy of Delos for the ornamentation of Athens, said Mrs. Joe. The boys groaned at the mere sound of the long names, and the gentleman laughed at the absurdity of the lesson. Did she write it? Asked Demi, in an awe-stricken tone. Yes, but you can imagine what a piece of work she made of it, though she was rather a bright child. I'd like to have seen it, said Mr. Bear. Perhaps I can find it for you. I went to school with her. And Mrs. Joe looked so wicked that everyone knew who the little girl was. Hearing this fearful subject for composition quite reconciled the boys to the thought of writing about familiar things. Wednesday afternoon was appointed for lectures, as they preferred to call them, for some chose to talk instead of write. Mr. Bear promised a portfolio in which the written production should be kept, and Mrs. Bear said she would attend the course with great pleasure. Then the dirty-handed society went off to wash, followed by the professor trying to calm the anxiety of Rob, who had been told by Tommy that all water is full of invisible pollywogs. I like your plan very much, only don't be too generous, Teddy, said Mrs. Bear when they were left alone. You know most of the boys have got to paddle their own canoes when they leave us, and too much sitting in the lap of luxury will unfit them for it. I'll be moderate, but do let me amuse myself. I get desperately tired of business sometimes, and nothing freshens me up like a good frolic with your boys. I like that Dan very much, Joe. He isn't demonstrative, but he has the eye of a hawk, and when you have tamed him a little, he will do you credit. I'm so glad you think so. Thank you very much for your kindness to him, especially for this museum affair. It will keep him happy while he is lame. Give me a chance to soften and smooth this poor rough lad and make him love us. What did inspire you with such a beautiful, helpful idea, Teddy? Asked Mrs. Bear, glancing back at the pleasant room as she turned to leave it. Laurie took both her hands in his and answered with a look that made her eyes fill with happy tears. Dear Joe, I have known what it is to be a motherless boy, and I could never forget how much you and yours have done for me all these years. And that was the end of 11. Now I got it. I can get rid of that 13-second job. Okay, love ya. I think I'll be right back and read some more of Huckleberry since we got cut off today. My mouth's super dry, but I got some cheer wine down. Love ya. Be sweet, don't be ugly. Be right back.